got that off of a cassette that your dad had,
Hmm.
then there must have been music in the house when you were a kid. And that sets us up chronologically to say, Jason, how'd this all get started? Like
Yeah, yeah.
how far back does it go? If you're playing tunes now that you remember hearing as a kid, music wasn't a new thing to you in college or something like that. There must have been music floating around in the house as a kid. What was little kid Jason home life like in terms of music exposure and stuff like that?
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of a weird one actually, and it is a long story, but I'll maybe give you just the summary, the notes of it. Uh,
Or do the
so
long version, whatever you want to do, man.
yeah, you know what? This could be one of those long podcasts. Yeah, I'm free. I'm free until about 6 o'clock today, so yeah, we can go through it, see how we get on. Uh, Anywho, um, yeah, so it's kind of weird. My dad plays bouzouki and guitar, but I didn't know that he played these instruments whenever I was a kid.
Oh.
Okay, I only found out that he could actually play music and play music very well. I think I might have been 10 or 11 maybe at the time, and it's kind of weird. Like growing up, I do remember like as a kid, like
Mm-hmm.
there being like Irish traditional music in the house, but not being played, but being like listened to in the background.
Yeah, gotcha.
Like an early memory for me is my dad explaining me the story of the Andy Irvine, Paul Brady, the first song on that album about like the horse race and telling me about the
Mm.
different horses and all the
Yeah,
rest of it,
right, yeah.
like learning all about that, or um, my mum, like my mum's my mum sings, but she's not a singer, if you know what I mean. But
Mm.
I remember her like singing, Arthur McBride or whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
about the house, or just singing to herself that she would cut off her heads in the morning, that sort of thing. Um, but it was a real weird experience actually. So I came home from school one day. I was in primary school. I come from a very very small village. I think maybe at the time there's probably about 1,000 people living there.
Oh, wow.
It's probably about the same these days, maybe a little bit more. Um, as everything, it's getting there. It's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And my primary school was very very close by. And coming home from school one day, with my brother. My brother's a year older than me, and my dad was in the front room and he had a bouzouki and he was playing it and he was playing it very well. And I'm like, what is this? How can you play music? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're doing. What's going on here? And then, basically from then on, I realized that I knew nothing about my dad.
He kept that secret from you for such a long time.
Yeah,
Had,
basically,
had
yeah.
had it been like in storage up in the attic or something and he finally got it out, or had he just waited till you were at school or asleep to play it for all those years, or had he just barely acquired a bouzouki and was like reawakening his past interest in it?
No, no, he'd had this bouzouki since like in the sort of early 70s. He did like a,
Mm.
a road trip across Europe with one of his best friends, as people did in those days, sort of hippieing about, and he ended up in Greece and he bought this bouzouki in the flea market
Mm.
and brought it back to Ireland. And it would have been kind of unusual at the time to have a bouzouki
I was
play
gonna
around
say he
there.
might have been the first one. It's so standard now, but he might have started the trend.
Nah, absolutely not. No, I don't think my dad started any trends, to be honest. But yeah, I think yeah, because he would have played guitar before that, and he was playing guitar since he was a child, and
Mm.
so yeah, just I think didn't know how to play bouzouki, just tuned it the same as a guitar, like the top four strings, maybe. I don't
Oh,
know. I'm not
sure.
sure. But yeah, brought it back and played it in in around like local sessions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he was in a band with this fella that he'd done his travels with. And whenever my brother was born, whenever I was born, he basically didn't have any time for any music, and he packed it all in, the whole thing. He just stopped playing,
Mm.
basically. Yeah, stuck him up in the attic or left him at my grandfather's house. I'm not really sure, but he had a guitar and he had he had a bouzouki. But
Mm.
they were never around the house whenever I was growing up until I was about 10. Come home from school one day, and then they're there, and I'm
Suddenly
like,
there's
what is this? What is going on? And the reason that they did that is, sadly, the fellow that he went on his travels with, he died in a car accident. He was living
oh,
out in Donegal, and I think I might have been the year after he died, or maybe the week after, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not. My
mm.
memory's a bit hazier, and it was a long time ago. But they had like a memorial concert, so they got all the band back together,
I see.
and yeah, so they got the band back together, and so for that my dad was practicing at home trying to get the fingers going again. He hadn't played in what
Mm.
must have been like 10 years or something like that as well. Um, and uh, we went out um on like a road trip out to Glentees out in Donegal, and we stopped off on the way and we picked up this fella who was uh, in a pub playing pipes. And I'd never seen the pipes or heard the pipes, or to my knowledge anyway, before. And I was
Or
like,
this fella, I'm assuming either.
yeah, exactly right. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this instrument, so he jumps in the back of the car. We drive out to the grave. He plays like a slow air, like the Coolin or something like that, at the grave,
Yeah.
and then jumps back in the car, and then we go and they get ready for the gig, and it was basically a crazy weekend of music out in Donegal, and it was just fantastic, and it blew my mind, and it blew my brother's mind. And
Yeah.
the first thing we said whenever we got back home is, can we play like trad? Can we get into playing trad? And
Yeah.
my brother played violin in school, and like a classical violin, and like he was enjoying it, and he could play. But I tried violin. I think I had one or two lessons on it, and
Mm.
I didn't like it whatsoever. And to be honest, I still can't play violin. Every
Mm.
time I pick up a fiddle, it's like, my fingers know where to go, but the bowing hand, I haven't got the
Mm.
dedication for it. But so anyway, I didn't play that, and but I said I wanted to play the pipes, right? And my
Mm.
dad was like, "Oh, we'll see. I'll see if I can get somebody who can teach you." And it turns out that the fella that they picked up was Noel Devine, and he was the local teacher, and he taught pipes, and he taught um, everything basically. He was the main teacher around our area, sort of. So I'm from Side Mills. It's like a little tiny village on the border of like Tyrone, Donegal, so the sort of
Mm.
Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland border. And Noel was from Strabane. He lived up the top of a hill.
His name comes up in the liner notes for a few of your albums because of tunes you got off of him. Is that right? Because that name sounds familiar. I feel like that might be where I came across it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be Noel. Yeah, Noel. I mean, I owe my entire musical life for him to him. So it's like, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
good man, Noel. And so we would drive up to his house after school on a Tuesday, pick up Noel, bring him back down to our house. We'd get maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 tunes a week from him. And after he'd teach us, myself and my brother, so teach my brother fiddle, teaching me whistle. Then afterwards, we'd have a session in the kitchen.
Mm.
So it'd be me, my
That
dad,
sounds pretty
Noel,
cool.
my brother, playing music.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday nights, this is taking me back. This is brilliant. There's I think it's actually still going, a TV show in Ireland on TG Cahir, or at the time it would be Tina G, the Irish language channel, called Gantry, and it's basically every week they have like a different pub, and they go in there and they get local musicians to play,
Mm.
and a couple of songs, that sort of thing. So we'd watch Gantry, and then we'd leave Noel back up the hill, and then just do the same thing every week for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It was brilliant, really, really, really great, sort of like full on immersion. Yeah, I was practicing all the time. I was super keen, loved playing tin whistle, really wanted to get into the pipes. And
Yeah.
then after I got quite confident on the whistle, Noel lands down one night with a bag, uh,
Mm.
and open up the bag, and there's a set of pipes in there. And he was like,
Mm.
"Have a go on these and see how you get on," you know. So that was great.
Jason, I don't want to sound like I'm oh, what would the word be, like fantasize, like doing some sort of like fantasization with your very real life, you know? But like from the outside, from the outside looking in, like first of all, the funeral experience with all of the music everywhere. Like I've been to a lot of funerals, mostly in the capacity of piper. They're usually pretty somber occasions for me, and so to hear of that kind of funeral just sounds very much like the Finnegan's Wake experience, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not just like this wild party, which like I would be cautious to assume that that's actually a real thing in Ireland because it's so outside of my own direct experience. And so to hear it actually happening, like already that's like, oh wow, this is kind of something out of a storybook. But then to have your music instructor like living on a hill, maybe a fairy hill, I don't know, and he shows up with a set of pipes for you one night too, you know, like these the elements of a sort of like mythical origin for your music journey are really coming together for me here.
You know what's quite funny actually? Yeah, yeah. The place that I come from is called Cyan Mills, but it's an anglicization. The real name for it is Mullion and Cian, and Cian means fairy. So it basically
Well, there
means
you
the fairy
go.
hill, which is my sort of like little why I've put that in there. Yeah, and like it's kind of an interesting little village. Like there's nothing much
Mm.
happening around there. It was a in the sort of, oh, I want to say 1820s, 1830s. There was a rich family decided to build a linen mill there, like a
Mm.
flax mill, because there was a really good location for it in terms of like the water, like the river. So they built a mill there, and that basically employed, uh, yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of like yeah, like a sort of mining town. If it would be
Sure.
maybe like the American equivalent, or maybe I'm living in Wales at the minute, maybe the Welsh equivalent. Um,
No,
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's a very nice place to actually grow up at. I mean, besides being on the border and having, going to
Oh, of
school and
course.
seeing like, the army walking down your street with guns and stuff, and helicopters landing and bombs going off. But
Yeah, you. I mean, you would have
in
been at
terms
an
of location,
impressionable age right at that time, wouldn't you?
yeah, 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 absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of a weird time, I suppose, in Ireland growing up. It's definitely a lot better these days, which
Mm.
we're all very happy about. I think, to be honest, I was probably too young for the worst of what was going on, mostly
Mm.
oblivious. But yeah, it was just like, actually, you know what? I was uh, back home for a funeral last week, and as much as it was a horrifically sad and somber affair.
Mm-hmm.
It was also the most fun that I've had in a long time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like getting on the plane with my face sore from laughing, and just having such
Hmm.
like a great crack, and seeing my friends who I haven't seen in a while, and just like listening to music, and like got a couple of sneaky pints down the pub, and like that sort
Yeah.
of thing. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. Funerals in Ireland, yeah, we like a good send off. I always think of them. They're always the same as weddings, except that
Yeah.
it's like it's like it's that same sort of celebration, but also it's not that somebody's getting married. It's that somebody who's died.
Hmm. Well, that's it's funny that that came up because there's another track on that Fieldish Recordings album. On the cassette, I know it would be the last track on set on side two, but I was
Hmm.
listening to it on Bandcamp. It's a set of mazurkas,
Yeah.
uh, and you mentioned there that you played "Shoe the Donkey" at a friend's funeral because it was a
Yeah.
favorite of theirs. And I just, again, like I read that and I thought, my goodness, I only ever get to play Amazing Grace at funerals. I would like, this is a very different experience than,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like, you know what, that is another like sort of core memory for me. Like whenever I was growing up, we
Mm,
had like kids sessions every week as well. So
wow.
I would go to the kids session and we would play. And there was an old fella who was a singer, and but he would love for us playing Shoe the Donkey because and this is again a really crazy story. He whenever he was a kid, um, uh, uh, like lived on a farm and had a donkey, and the only way that the donkey would ever come over is if he made like a donkey noise, and
Uh-oh.
it was a very authentic donkey noise. You would have sworn there was a donkey in the room
Yeah.
whenever he bellowed it out. So whenever we'd play Shoot the Donkey, he would bellow at that, and that's what he learned that from his dad or whatever. Whenever he was a kid, and and so that was like the stipulation at the funeral. So when we were laying him in the ground, we were all sitting around playing Shoot the Donkey.
Oh, I see. So extra good for him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Mm.
great. And you know what's even funnier? Like there's it's such a great like a cracking tune. We have like a local session here in Cardiff as well, in Wales where I play, and there's a fella who comes over every single time, every single night, and asks for Shoot the Donkey, and we always play it again. And so
Oh,
that always
really?
tickles me too as well. Yeah.
Uh, huh. Do do you think so? I'm not like. Feel free to tell me if this isn't if there's not a connection here. But just thinking of tunes like that where you've kind of like done the tune so many times, and it's been in different like phases of your life and in different places for you. Um, I guess what I'm drawing on here is I don't know if you remember a blog post that you did a while ago, where running came up.
Yeah.
You were thinking about if I was understanding it right, you're thinking about like sort of exposure to landscapes
Hmm.
from a photo versus actually being in the place, and if the experience maybe of painting a landscape makes you that much more familiar with what's going on in it, like in a kind of intimate way, different from if you're just looking at it out a window and not taking the time to paint it. And then also if like running the same route maybe over and over again makes you really familiar with an area. Do you feel like there's any kind of connection there with some tunes, maybe for you specifically, maybe for humans in general, where like if you've run over the shape of the tune, as it were, over and over again in different applications, etc., does something happen, after, versus having just tried to pick up a tune off of a piece of sheet music quickly?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's like in terms of like landscapes, there's a whole study into this, and I'm not an expert in this whatsoever, but it's uh what's it called? Psychogeography. Yeah, and
Mm.
it's very interesting, and I have a book about it here which I haven't read yet, which
I
is
don't.
the story of my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's so relatable, Jason. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. What some people say about books is like when you buy a book, you're not buying the book to read. You're buying the concept that you will have time to read it. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
that's what you're paying for. That's the buzz that you get from it.
Yeah.
In terms of tunes, there's like I don't think that I fall out of love with tunes, and it's kind of weird. I don't think I have any tunes that I hate, and that there's tunes that like the very like one of the tunes on that Fieldish recording is uilleann or Come by the Hills, and
Yeah.
that was literally the first tune that Noel Devine wrote out for me, and he was like, "This is what we're going to learn today. This is your first lesson," and I've
Mm.
carried it with me. I love that tune. We do it actually in our local session as well. There's a fella, Jim, in our session, who just had his 80th birthday. He's from Galway, but he lives in Cardiff, and he sings it, and I play it on the pipes, and it's just like a beautiful, beautiful tune that we have. And
Mm.
yeah, that one's it's really stuck with me, and I just love playing it, even though it was like tune number one,
Mm-hmm.
in my repertoire. So I don't really fall out of love with tunes, uh, and even tunes that have like fallen on hard times, or like corny old tunes that nobody plays. Like I love playing the Irish Washerwoman. Like it's
Hmm.
it really it almost ended up on the album, on the last album there, and maybe it'll be on the next one, I don't know. But it's one that I like to play. Yeah, yeah, I'm into that. There's I run like, okay, so this is kind of tangential, but sure, this is what
Yeah.
podcasts are all about, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Um, I run myself and one of my friends. We run like a festival, like a piping festival out in West Wales,
Mm.
every year, and but we always have like other instruments as well. Like, and we run the festival. We have like our own, I don't know, manifesto. Like, and we kind of like, people always come up and say, "Oh, you should have like a Byron class or something like this," and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, not really. It's a piping festival." But we do have fiddle players that come. So we've had like Siobhan Peoples last year.
Mm.
We have one of my favorite humans in the whole world coming this year. A fella called Mikey Kenny, who's a fiddle player from Liverpool, and he has a very distinctive like Liverpool style. So you often hear like about like fiddle styles, like, oh, there's a Sligo style, a Clare style, a Donegal
Yeah.
style, that sort of thing. There's actually a Liverpool style as well, which is kind of unique, but very sort of like hyper localized. And he has this
Mm.
style, which he would have got from the old players around whenever he was growing up. But anyway, fantastic fiddle player, fantastic human being, but very his teaching methods are very philosophical. And this is kind of like, whenever I'm teaching, this is kind of where I go as well. It's like, and you can learn tunes from anyone, right? You can pick up a O'Neill's and have a look in there. You've got your tunes. You can have a look on the session.org or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like the the philosophy behind the instrument, the tradition, that sort of thing. I think that's something that is like hard to get unless you have the right teacher.
Mm.
And Mikey is a great teacher for that. And uh, so like, I think maybe I was saying earlier that I don't play fiddle and I'm terrible at it, but I sat in one of his classes one time just because his like teaching methods are so good, and he was saying about um, a method for like learning a tune was to like just to like play it so many times through that it kind of loses its meaning,
Hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
the story that he had, um, sorry, he's a very funny guy as well. The story that he had to explain it was that whenever he was a kid, and he'd go to his nan, his grandmother's house, um, he would shout, you know, like if he wanted to get her attention, be like, "Nan, Nan, Nan,"
Yeah.
and he would kind of annoy her by like saying it like a load of times, until like that word kind of like lost its meaning and it just became
Okay. Yeah.
like you know, instead
Yeah.
of
I know what
like
you mean. Yeah.
instead of being his like affectionate term for his grandmother, it's just like Nan. And he's like, you want to get your tunes to that level, and that's where the magic happens. Like, it's part of my like practice routine, and like and this works for me. It might not work for everyone, but yeah, like if I sort of squirrel away some time for some dedicated practice, I just kind of like free flow it. Like if I have tunes I'm working on, I'll play them, but if I don't, I'll
Mm.
just see what comes out. And it could be that I play something like, I don't know, you know, like Miss McLeod's reel for like 20 times across, you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's and I'll record it at the time, and the more you play it, you enter this sort of meditative state. And this is where, yeah, like Mikey says, this is where like the magic happens. This is where you get those like, you know, happy little accidents that come in. Your
Mm.
brain tricks your fingers into doing something you didn't think you could do, or you didn't think would work, or whatever. And you know, it just sort of settles you. You take more musical risks. More interesting things come out. Yeah, that's kind
Mm.
of my approach to practice and to learning tunes, really. Yeah.
Hmm. I wonder if there's a another, or if this is more of the same kind of connection that could be seen to landscapes and landscape paintings. Because just because one thing that's coming to mind is some conversations I've had with a good friend of mine, John Charles, who happens to play a few varieties of pipes, um, including uilleann pipes. Though I think he mostly is focusing on Scottish small pipes right now. But just when talking about melody and the shape that melodies take, a word that comes up often in these conversations is landmarks. It's like,
Yeah.
which landmarks are the key things that still need to be there so that that tune is still identifiable, but the path you take to get from landmark to landmark, that's, you know, that's where the interesting sort of variations and stuff might come in.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the kind of thing you get when you're familiar with a landscape. You know all of the little alternative ways getting from point A to point B to point C, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one aspect of piping, or maybe it's just trad music in general, not specifically piping, that that I get lost on is like learning slow airs. Like,
Mm.
and I, I kind of hate the term slow airs because it sort of conjures up like I don't know, like anxiety in my brain about
Mm.
this is like the peak of piping, and you have to play these very long and complicated tunes, and often there's lots of like held upper octave stuff, and it's
Mm.
and my actual preference for playing, and I would refer to them as airs, and actually a good example of that is the Buchel on air. And I quite like learning from songs. So even
Mm.
if they're, they could be in Irish or they could be in English or whatever. But I find it easier to landmark them when you have the words behind them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think it's kind of like my method for getting me to enjoy, uh, to enjoy playing airs.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, even to go back to something like Amazing Grace, you know what the words are. So whenever you're
Mm.
playing it, you're imagining the words as you go, right?
It's not an air, but it is, at least for me, a corny old song that I've
Yeah.
heard often repeated. I don't know if it's the case for you as well, but one that has words to it for sure, though there are different varieties of words. I was surprised the first time I heard the last track on that Fieldish Recordings album, and that it ended with Yankee Doodle, or you have it down
Yeah.
as Oh Susanna.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'd never heard that on pipes before, and for me, at least for my personal experience, I don't know if this is the case in Wales or in Ireland, but that is like the peak of the corny old tune pile for me. Like that's like Yankee Doodle. That's what it is. That's like the Jingle Bells of general music. Um, and so to hear it, like even as the finisher of this great album, it was surprising, but also delightful. Like I like you played it like you like it, and that kind of made me like it. So.
Yeah.
How did you end up putting that on pipes? Was that something you'd heard other pipers do before?
Yeah, I can't take all the credit for that one. And actually, this is something I was thinking about this yesterday, actually,
Mm.
but in relation to a different tune, which I'll tell you about in a second. It's gonna,
Yeah.
it's even worse. Um,
Oh.
yeah, I heard Paddy Keenan doing that.
Oh,
Um,
well, if Patty Keenan does it, then anybody, then it's legitimate, right?
yeah, and this is the thing people don't get about, and you know what, this is my whole approach to the instrument as well. Like, and like, it's kind of weird, like being a piper, um, and I'm sure it's the same in Highland pipes as well. But you kind of get like held like to like I don't know, like maybe like a different level than a different instrument would have been, right? And
Yeah.
and I think people take it so seriously as well. And I think
Hmm.
like my favorite pipers, that and part of what they do that I love so much about them is there's humor in the piping. And I don't mean necessarily that they're playing, whatever tune it is. in like a funny way, but it's like there's enjoyment, there's fun, there's a great word for it that we have in Ireland. There's devilment, devilment to it.
Devilment.
Yeah, like it's playing the tune with like a wink and a smile,
Yeah.
So yeah, like Willie Clancy is a great exponent of that. Paddy Keenan as well, like these are my favorite kind of musicians who, when they're having fun, like it comes across in the music, like they're taking musical risks. They're throwing things in there to trip themselves up to force them to play it a different way the next time around, and yeah, like stuff like that. You can, or they're throwing in some like weird sounds or doing something funny on the regulators, or some some they're doing something that you wouldn't associate with their piping, like
Yeah.
a different sort of style, or dropping notes or putting in extra notes or playing the same thing through like 4 times, like that sort of thing. And this is something that I hear very little pipers do these days, but there's some pipers who do it, and yeah, it's just, it always brings a smile to my face,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah. Kind of willingness to play, kind of.
it's to be honest, maybe it's willingness to oh, I don't know, willingness to kind of not to show yourself up, but willingness to put a different emotional spin on the music. To maybe the only the only kind of relation, maybe metaphorical relation to this I can think of is something like Waiting for Godot. Like the play that is incredibly serious, with like two main characters and nothing happens in the whole like 2 hours of it. Um, uh, yeah, it's just I don't know if you're familiar with it. I think it was Samuel Beckett. But
No,
it's
but I'll
incredibly
Google it.
it's incredibly dry. Nothing happens in the whole play. It's very Irish, and it's there's humor uh, in the fact that it's, yeah, just a play where two people talk.
I see.
Like it's that kind of like I don't know if it's like something that's uniquely Irish or whatever, but it's, yeah, it's stuff like that I love, and I think, and I love it when I hear other pipers like tapping into that. Like there's like you've had one of my favorite pipers of all time, and again one of my favorite human beings, Liam Monette, on one of your podcasts a little while ago, and
Yeah.
Liam has this, like, in his playing. There's musical risks. There's humor in there. There's like what did we play in a so sorry, a
No,
long
no.
story, and I won't gush about how much I love Liam, but
Go ahead. I could tell you what, if you gush about how much you love Liam, there's at least one person who would love to hear that.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we were playing a session in Milton Malby at the Willie Clancy Summer School, and like Liam's favorite set of pipes is the set of pipes that I played the most, my Taylor set, and he loves them.
uh,
And so like I'll go out to the bar, or out to the jacks or something, and I'll come back and he'll have the pipes on and he's playing away. So this is the kind of thing that happens. You get like a couple of pipers in a room together, and you know, eventually somebody hands you a chanter, or you swap bellows around, or the pipes around, or have a go on these or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, he's playing away on my set, and the tune that he's playing to, like, to that he's really loving at the minute is How Much Is That Doggy in the Window?
Oh, really?
And he's doing a stellar job of it. It is so much fun. He's got all the regs going.
Yeah.
Everyone's singing along. Like, yeah,
Oh, there you
there's
go.
yeah, and it's the kind of thing that we have this idea in our minds of like the gentleman piper, or whatever that
Sure.
even means. Um,
Yeah.
but um, but yeah, like my favorite musicians, and even if you think of someone like Liam O'Flynn, who was like the quintessential gentleman piper, with like the sort of the straight face playing and everything. I've got like bootlegs of him playing, and he is having a blast. you know, like, and he's pulling out all the stops. He's throwing in the weird kind of Johnny Dorr and stuff, and yeah, he's just going for it and just like loving life, you know. And yeah, I just stuff like that I find really, really, you know, really interesting musically, and yeah,
Mm.
like I really don't have much time for musicians who are very polished and like,
Mm.
you know, like very good, very articulated, very uh like those the sort maybe you might think of like as like a master piper or whatever like that.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like or even to throw in like a different genre, you know, like that sort of, I don't know, like if you've got somebody who is very technical in their ability of
Hmm.
like playing guitar or something like that. You know, like give me a Stooges album instead, you know.
Mm.
Give me something bad. Like I'd rather listen to something that was bad or in the middle than something that was at the top, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that sort of like interest in and maybe even seeking out devilment? Maybe that's a part of why you've never fallen out of love with a tune. Like if you're willing to look at a tune in that way, then there's no reason it would ever get worn out.
You know what? That could be it, actually. Yeah, yeah. I haven't thought of it that way, but yeah, like there's always something that you can, you know, that I could put into it that will make it enjoyable for me, you know. And you know, with sessions, there's some people who have their comfort zone and they have their like two or three tunes that they play
Hmm.
every week or whatever, and you know, rather than being like, oh, great, now it's time for the cash jig and whatever it is, the Brownie Pilgrim, I don't know. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, brilliant, here's another opportunity for me to like try and, you know, throw a spanner in the works, try and trip myself up and do something wrong in a way that might be musical or might make me
Yeah.
laugh or whatever, you know? Yeah, it's like I kind of feel, you know what, actually, this is a good point. Just even talking through this now, it's actually bringing me back to, I think it's like an interview or a video or something that I saw
Hmm.
um, with the White Stripes.
Okay. Yeah. Great band. Yeah.
So yeah, like so whenever I was growing up, I didn't like the White Stripes that much. I thought they were a bit rubbish. But I saw them play in Belfast whenever I was a teenager, and honestly I didn't get the White Stripes. But I went to go see them. Um, you know, it's like Seven Nation Army had just come out. It was a big hit, and I was like, you know what, yeah,
Hmm.
this is quite fun, but the music's not for me. You know, I was at the time I was really into like my like sort of blues, like Delta
Mm.
blues, Chicago blues, all that sort of stuff. I was really into that, and I didn't get White Stripes. And whenever I saw them, uh, because I thought they just like they play like really sloppily. It's not great. You
Sure.
know, where's the Jimmy Page guitar solo? You know, whatever it is,
Yeah.
that teenagers think, and and they did a fantastic cover of Robert Johnson. Um, Stop Breaking Down, and I was like sold. Okay, this is I'm a White Stripes fan now. Like there's a chaotic energy.
Hmm.
The and I watched an interview with Jack White about how he like would intentionally make things difficult for himself.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Like
does like a
like
lot of like one take things and stuff like that, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's for me, that is where the excitement is. Like one of the things he says, like uh, you know, he would put different microphones around different places on the stage so that if he was singing in one, he would try and finish the sentence on a different microphone.
And
And if
dash
and
to another microphone.
yeah, yeah. And if you
Yeah.
got there in time, he would move the microphone a little bit further away to make it harder for him, you know,
Wow, really?
like intentionally, you know, making things difficult for yourself, like keeping it more
Yeah.
stripped down, and then basically creating moments for yourself to make mistakes.
Hmm.
And then, but there's magic in that as well. And a lot of and that clicked with me that a lot of my favorite pipers were doing that as well. Like, like
Interesting.
like if you think about like the Johnny Doran recordings being one of my favorite like inspirations. I had it on cassette and I wore it out whenever I was a kid. But there's bits in his playing in that where he's trying to do two things at the same time and they overlap and like, he gets tongue twisted and
Hmm.
but still manages to resolve it in a musical and interesting way. And it's like this is what I've been doing in my like piping, you know, and
Hmm.
this is what I want to do more of and I want to see more people do. Yeah, and it, not necessarily like playing like the corny tunes or whatever, but just finding new and interesting ways uh to approach those tunes. The tunes that everyone plays, the tunes that you hear every week in the session, or the corniest of tunes. What's the way
Yeah,
that I can
how
make this
much is that doggy in
interesting?
the window?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. The one that I was listening to yesterday, I mentioned it, maybe half an hour ago. The the Patsy Toohey recording of Turkey in the Straw.
Oh, Turkey in the Straw. There's another of the corny classics. Huh?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So this is my I'm gonna try and learn his version of it, and it is a dreadful recording. I don't know how much you know about Patsy Toohey, but he did
No, I don't know much at all.
he was like a quite popular recording artist, and maybe the best piper in his day, and still like regarded as one of the best pipers of all time. And but he would have been recording around, I don't know, like maybe in like 1910, 1920s, maybe around that era.
Mm.
And but he did mail order recordings. So you would write to him, you would say, he would put an advert out with like a list of tunes. You would write
Mm.
to him saying that I want to hear Turkey in the Straw, please. And he would go down and record it onto a wax cylinder for you and then post that out to you.
Yeah,
And
wow.
that was his business model. Like absolutely brilliant. Loved it. But so we have like a couple of cylinders kicking around of his recordings, and there's one particularly bad one of him playing Turkey in the Straw, and it's almost impossible to like pick out what he's actually playing. But
Mm.
if you like squint your ears, you can hear some like he's like throwing in like all these kind of weird and interesting and pippity poppity pipety like
Yeah,
little flourishes and notes, and he's having a blast playing it. I'm like, you know what? This is great. This is great. I can
yeah.
get behind that. This is what I like.
Do you think it's bringing something to mind? And I was just scrolling through trying to see if it might have even been the same blog post where you were talking about familiarity via landscape paintings. Because I know for sure I read something from you about people setting themselves very difficult challenges. And
Yeah,
I know you talked about it in performance art, and I remember you talking about it in video games where people will say, like, you know what, I'm going to, I'll do the entire game without, I don't know, the Iron Man challenge is one that you brought up in World of Warcraft, stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, do you feel like that's the same thing going on? Is this something that is a theme in life for you in general to kind of look around and just think like, how can I make this more interesting? You know what? Let's, let's, as you say, throw a spanner in the works. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think you're right actually. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, the making things complicated. So whenever I finished school, I had the opportunity to go to university, and I think a lot of people ask me why I didn't do music. I did art, and basically my reasoning behind it is I have if I wanted to go to university uh, and do music, I don't think I would have got as much out of it as if I just, as if I went to like the Willie Clancy Summer School, or I went to like, I don't know, like a Sean McKiernan concert or something like that. Like I think I would have
Mm.
got more musically. Um, uh, I mean, particularly in like I'm thinking like specifically like Irish traditional music. I would have got more out of it than that. I mean, I would have been maybe a more well-rounded, you know, in terms of like musical knowledge and the rest of it. And what, spending 3, 4 years, 5 years or whatever studying music, I probably would have been a lot better. Um, but I really wanted to do art, and I felt that the going to art college would have been, uh, it's more it would be more of a different way of thinking about things, and
Hmm.
that's um, definitely improved my music as well. I think a lot of
Mm.
things are related, and I actually I find it quite hard to draw parallels between art and music. Like I don't really involve uh, musical work in my creative like contemporary art practice, uh,
Mm.
but I think
So you wouldn't be one to say like this is a visual representation of rhythm or something along those lines. It's kind of two different spaces for you.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
and it's kind of why I like the pipes as well as like an instrument, because there's so many aspects of it that can like tickle different parts of your brain. Uh,
Mm.
there's there's a really I'm just jumping around here, but it's kind of related and again like tangential. There's a really good documentary from maybe the late 70s, early 80s about sort of singer songwriter folk musicians in Texas
Oh,
called Heartworn Highways. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it or seen it or
I
whatever, but
haven't, no, but I'd be happy to look it up for sure. Yeah.
it's really, really good. It's got like Townes Van Zandt and a young Steve Earle and Guy
Mm.
Clark and uh, like loads of all of those that kind of era
Yeah.
um, of yeah, sort of Texas, folk troubadours. And whenever I was a kid, I was mad into that as well, and I still am. Like I got into that through like sort of Steve Earle, and then
Mm.
a friend of my dad came over and he was like, "Oh, this is a Townes Van Zandt album." He was like Steve Earle's mentor. You should listen to this. So
Mm.
like as like a 16, 17 year old in a border village in Northern Ireland. Um, yeah, I had my musical upbringing around like trads, like Willie Clancy, Johnny Dorn, bothy band stuff, uh, Robert Johnson, and and then like like deep cut Townes Van Zandt stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
actually,
Yes.
one of my like prized possessions that I have is I've got an autographed LP with a corner cut out, like a Townes Van Zandt one that I bought for like a tenner,
Wow.
in like, I don't know, whatever it would have been, like 2004 or something like that.
Mm.
When nobody was like, nobody even knew about Townes Van Zandt then, he's only really
Mm-hmm.
became, I suppose, more famous recently. But anyway, there was a really good documentary with all those guys in it, and there's a bit where Guy Clark is, um, he's a brilliant lyricist, brilliant, singer, finger picker, but he
Mm-hmm.
also like repaired and built guitars, and he's got a like an old Martin on the bench or something, and he's taken a file to the frets, and he's like, he's just like going to town on it, and he's like, oh, this is like
Mm.
difficult to watch for the owners. But he talks about how uh like you can get caught up in like the art of it, the
Mm.
art of like composition, like that problem solving that you have with like where does this chord go, what words fit this line, that sort of thing, that you have to
Mm-hmm.
do something that takes that side of your brain out where you're solving different problems with your
Mm.
hands, so like you're fixing a guitar up that way. And this is something that's always stuck with me because with pipes, there's an incredible amount of maintenance. And maybe this is the reason why I'm drawn to owning older sets of pipes that actually require a bit of, fixing up like quite
Mm-hmm.
regularly, because there's days whenever you're playing and the music doesn't come. You could be playing terribly or it's just not working or whatever. We all have these days. And I think I'm kind of lucky that with the uilleann pipes that, or maybe unlucky, I don't know, that I can switch that side of my brain off, not worry about it, and then focus on, what, this is an extra hour or half an hour that I've got today now, where I can spend tuning up everything. I can put
Mm.
some extra
Yeah.
hemp on there. I can try a new reed in here. I can just play around with them. I can tinker with them. That sort of thing.
That makes sense. For a moment there, I thought you were going to say that you're lucky or unlucky because if the pipes are having a bad pipe day, you can put them down and pick up a different set. Well, if the Taylor set's not working today, then I guess I'll go to my Rouse set instead. Something like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? That is like that is. It sounds. It's really, really like, I don't know. I don't want to come across as a bit of a prick. But having like some of those older sets, they have to be played. Like as soon as one set is
Yeah.
going well, you can put it down and then pick something else up and then put some air through it. Like, yeah, yeah. When I did that last recording, the heavy metal drum album, like
Yeah.
that was like maybe the hardest part of the whole process was making sure that every set of pipes was playing somewhat well, you know.
Mm.
Like I really wanted to, and again, it ties into like, I'm giving myself ridiculous challenges here that makes my life harder.
I mean,
So
I wondered about that. If like this attempt to sort of like capture other styles of play on different sets of pipes. I mean, that sounds like a challenging. Yeah, like it seems like it would be easier to just get one set of pipes rolling, and just play that one set of pipes. And so it feels like a theme. Yeah, you're making things difficult, but in a fun way.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and the nice part about that recording as well is a lot of them were like, like first take, second take, or whatever, like a
Mm.
quick, run through with a tune, and like there's mistakes on it. There's like weird time going up and down. But I just wanted to have something that was a bit more immediate. Like there's a real, like I think it's dying out now because there's more people, I think, who have the same sort of frame of mind as me, and the people who like who will actively listen to bad recordings,
Mm.
and whether that's like a wrinkly old like cassette recording, somebody's not on their best day or whatever, or a musician who's not great but has some interesting like characteristics to their playing. Like that's what I'm interested in. I think more and more pipers are getting into that because there was a period of time where releasing a piping album meant you had something that was like wholly overproduced. We've got
Sure.
like
Yeah.
saccharine reverb, we've got like keyboards, we've got percussion, we've got guitar bouzouki on every single track. Like we went through a long period of that being the norm,
Hmm.
like basically uh yeah, like overproduced, like polished, studio polished albums. And you know what? Like I do have a love still for that kind of thing, but it's not my regular go-to if I wanted to listen to
Mm.
some like actual like some pure drop trad,
Yeah.
and I'm like I'm not a purist in any sense of the word, or even like a gatekeeper or whatever. I'm not. If somebody releases something like that, I'm like, what, like, fair play to you, go for it. Like there's a few bits and pieces that seem to be coming back into vogue. That sort of like
Mm.
90s like style of piping, maybe popularized by Davy Spillane, or like those kind of Riverdance kind of
Mm.
vibe
Sure. Yeah.
people. Like that's coming back in. And if it brings more people to the instrument, I'm happy for it.
Yeah.
And maybe, yeah, on the back of that, the purist, like, yeah, I did my Pure Drop album, which is cassette recorded, hard to listen to, one take. Uh, yeah, shoe the
I want to
donkey.
say fun to listen to though. Like I like I'll have a link to the album, to all the albums, in the show notes. If anybody hasn't listened to that yet, I think it's worth listening to for sure. A lot of fun to listen to.
Good, good,
Like,
thanks. Yeah, I sent a copy over to Jeff Wolf, who made the pipes, and who's, I would say, the greatest living pipe maker. And he messaged me back and was like, "Oh, it's great reed making music."
read making music. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. And then I did the album of video game music. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a trad purist by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
Yeah, one of my I don't think I've told anyone this one, or maybe I haven't, or maybe I have, but I definitely not on a podcast. I did an album. No, I started working on like a Celtic space rock opera
Oh yeah.
over lockdown,
I,
and
I I
no,
remember reading that on one of your blog posts, and I was thinking to myself, like, where did that go? Where is that?
yeah, nobody will hear this. Yeah, thank God.
uh,
But like it's just like I have a great appreciation for that as well. Like like all like the Thin Lizzy stuff, like the Horslip stuff, that kind of thing. Like I
sure.
love that. Yeah, even like bands like Yes, or
Mm.
yeah, like weirder Pink Floyd stuff. I'm into that. I'm into my prog rock as well.
Yeah.
I'm just yeah, just a musical magpie, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, that was the space opera. God, yeah. You know what? I have the sketches of it. I've got the demos of it recorded here. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I
Mm.
don't think the world's ready for that one just yet.
That's that'll be the reason. You're
Yeah,
doing it at mercy to the rest of the we're not ready yet.
Yeah,
Maybe we can
exactly.
earn it someday.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well,
Yeah.
Jason, I don't want to make you feel like uncomfortable with like too much. Like, let's see, I want to say this right because I think that you're an artist who I enjoy consuming what you produce, and I don't mind telling you that. I also don't want to make you feel like bashful or uncomfortable with excessive praise or anything. But I do want to point out how helpful, like it is helpful to me that kind of the fact that you're trying things and you're also open about trying them, like you're not holding such things, like it's not like the only things that get released to the public are fully polished and completely all the way perfect. You mentioned once in a post about making games, you said of yourself, you said that you thought it was safe to say you had a problem with finishing projects, especially when it moves from the exhilarating beginning stage of planning them and conceptualizing them and exploring them to the more tedious refining and polishing and eventual release of the project. But man, it's just that it's like for me as a listener, as a consumer of the art that you put out, to hear the artists themselves talk about going through that, it's a, I don't know, it's very encouraging to me to keep trying things myself, in my own little sphere. You know what I mean? Like if I
Yeah.
didn't get that little peek behind the curtain, then I might think to myself like, I have such a problem with starting projects and never finishing them, and this is why I'll never, get joy out of life or something like that. It can become like kind of a negative cycle, to kind of some negative self-talk there. And so to have somebody else who I respect, whose work I like, say that they also do that. Yeah, I don't know. There's something very encouraging about that. I'm glad that you're willing to share that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, like, yeah, and maybe in piping in general or music in general, more than, maybe even in art as well, I suppose. Yeah, people only ever see the finished product, right? You
Yeah.
know, and for me, uh, and again in my art practice, I think I find like the process sometimes is more exciting. Uh,
Mm.
or maybe more dangerous. I don't know. There's something about that kind of draws me into it. And but yeah, in terms of like starting things, there definitely is like when you like if I have an idea, you know what, I can't sleep. I've got to write this down or
Yeah.
whatever. I've got to think about it. And then when it comes to the actual mechanics of it, sometimes you hit like a roadblock or something is difficult or whatever, and you kind of lose momentum behind it. You know what, I've come to accept that as like part of like who I am.
Mm.
Uh, and like years and years and years ago, I sort of realized that this was something I was struggling with, and I made a list of everything that I'd started and not finished. And instead of like going through and trying to like finish things, I was looking for like patterns in there to see what was happening. And
Mm.
a lot of what I came across was something like if I'd started doing something over here and then forgotten about it, and then I'd started something else, and which was successful, like the skills that I'd like practice and like or explored in one of these earlier failures, and I don't, failures is the wrong word, but
I got you. Air quotes
some,
around that word. Yeah, I
yeah,
got you.
exactly. Yeah. Uh, uh, the skills or the methodology or the thinking or the conceptual, um, the concept behind it, that's fed into a different project down the line, and I probably didn't even realize. It's
Mm.
only until I like sort of thought things through. I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I've started this here, but then it's become this, or this was something that I did and I didn't like, but I can see the aspect that I did like of it appear in a different project or a different recording or whatever down
Mm.
the line.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. It's encouraging. It makes it seem like it ain't over till it's over. You never do know.
Yeah.
Also, Jason, I was ready for you to tell me that you'd started the list of all the projects you hadn't finished, and you still haven't finished the list.
Yeah. You know what I did actually? At one stage, I started putting like post-it notes up by my bed. So I'd
Yeah.
wake up in the morning and I'd see project one, project two, project three, whatever, and I did that for about a year or 2 years. And then I was just like, there's a post-it here that's been on this wall for 2 years. I'm not going to finish this, I've
Yeah.
just got to
Just be okay
accept
with
it.
taking it off, huh?
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's not admitting defeat. Um, like there's I'm really interested in like I sort of dip my toes in I don't know what would you call even like sort of startups, that sort of thing. Uh,
Mm.
many years ago, and like got into like reading books about it, and because as a musician, as a artist or whatever, you have to do a lot yourself, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things about it is if you're like failing, you wanna fail immediately, and learn from
Mm,
it.
get it over with.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, like don't stick with something that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Identify what's wrong with it, pivot if you need to, or or just call it a day and move on to the
Mm.
next thing. And I'm kind of lucky enough that I have like there's so yeah, I'm into like my sort of games as well, and like game development. And there's whenever I was a kid, I used to make like levels for like Half-Life games and Counter-Strike and that sort
Mm.
of thing. And and I was really interested in the company that made that game, Valve, and they're the company behind Steam nowadays is their main
Yeah.
vehicle. But they made Half-Life, which would have been maybe one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know. Anyway, great game. And like my dream job, maybe whenever I was a kid, is oh, I'd love to work for Valve. And I got recently got hold of they have like a company handbook which they give to all new employees, and it's
Mm.
very interesting. They have a very different dynamic from how most companies work, and they like to employ. I think they called it something like umbrella people,
Mm.
and basically what that is, if you imagine it like as an umbrella, along the top you've got your different skills, that you can do that you're interested in, and then in the middle of the umbrella you have like one skill that goes really long and really deep, you know.
Mm.
So they like people who can like do different things, but can also like specialize in something. And whenever
Yeah.
I was reading that, I was like, you know what, this is me, right? This is I like to do lots of different things. I like to spin different plates, and I'm in a lucky position where I can do that. So if I'm working on something and it's not going well, I can like park that, and I can push my creative energy or my brain power into a different part of whatever I'm looking at.
Mm.
And then I have my deep understanding of, say for example, uilleann piping, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to be that kind of a person. And I think like these days there tends to be, maybe I'm just generalizing as well, but I think that what people like to do is to become like super like hyper specific around like one particular area.
Yeah. Very
And
specialized.
yeah. And I like to think that, I'm kind of lucky that I can, flip between like doing art or doing something else, or well, like I don't know, coming up with some ideas for this festival, or making a t-shirt or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
it all feeds into the same thing. And like I had a really interesting when I did my master's in again in contemporary art. I had a really good tutorial with one of my teachers, um, who was like, uh, asking about like how is the what's the bridge between like the music and the art. You've got like our video games or whatever. Like you've got all these things going on. Like how did they link up?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't like formulate an answer. I was like I like to compartmentalize them. And but the real link between them is like they're all coming from me. And whether
Mm.
I realize it or not, they do feed into each other. You know.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
even if it is like a way of thinking or approach or something deep philosophical or whatever, rather than something, surface level, like, oh, I do a painting of a piper, like,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, there's something in there that sort of feeds from one part to another, which I think is interesting uh, and unexplored, and not particularly common as well.
Yeah. Interesting. So the connecting tissue maybe then between these things is yourself. It's maybe not
Hmm.
something external that could be easy to kind of point to and give a label to, other than to say that it's the you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
lovely.
mean, yeah, it's something I need to think about more and dig into. Like, I have drawn up plans and ideas for like, um, like, oh, I should have an exhibition where I make work about this particular musician, or
Mm.
these like a selection of tunes or whatever, or interpret this in some different way. Like, I'm really interested in like not specifically like I like well, I have an art studio. I go in there. I do my messy work in there. I do like paintings and I don't know, drawings, whatever it is.
Hmm.
But I also do a lot of like contemporary work around things like video game related art or art
Hmm.
that uses computers, technology, like VR stuff, that sort of thing. Like I'm interested in that aspect of art as well. And like the really weird, like there's a term for it if anyone wants to Google it. It's called post-internet art, and
Hmm.
it's like I did a talk in this one time, and it was just so weird that people like for like a non-art crowd, um, who were like, how is this art? This is just so strange. Like this is
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
making memes, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, it is, but it's also contemporary art. So
Yeah.
there's like I'm interested in that, and even to the like years and years ago, I was interested in AI, and I built my own. Like I say, I built my own. Like I am I am terrible at coding. Like when
Mm.
I was a kid, like I had an Amiga, which I don't think really took off over in the States. It was more of a European computer. But it's basically like a PC. And I used to love making games there. And I taught myself how to program using Basic and using the art packages to make my characters. And I'd make
Mm.
games about me and my friends and all the rest of it, that sort of thing. When I was like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 again.
Yeah.
Um, but I am terrible at coding. I haven't done much in the way of coding since, so I'm really bad at that. So whenever I am making something using this sort of like, in the sort of digital art canon, I am just like grabbing bits from like YouTube tutorials and,
Sure.
adding bits in. But I managed to come up with um, before it was like kind of a common thing to do or before it was easy to do, um, using, what was it called? Google Collab or something like that. Um, a building like an AI model
Mm.
to come up with Sean Noss songs.
Oh, really? So like you were referencing existing Shanna songs and then saying like generate something like this?
Yeah, yeah.
I see.
Again, that's not something I've like shared online or like again that's just kind of like a failed project and yeah, so and it was expensive as well. I had to rent graphics cards,
Oh, yeah.
virtual graphics cards, virtual machines from Google to actually do it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it to give it a go and see if it was possible, and it was possible. It was quite fun. But like these
Mm.
days, you can go like ChatGPT, can you come up with a Sean Noss song or whatever, or come up with a new tune, which again is quite fun.
No,
Um,
but this is great, Jason, because this means in the future when these sort of like interwoven networks of circuits eventually become fully conscious and they have archaeologists, they'll be looking back and figuring out the earliest beginnings of their culture, and there's going to be Sean Na songs there. That's really cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All humanity will have been dead, but they'll be like, oh, let's come look. The computers will be like, oh, this is where we came from.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, that's right. Sort of speaking of game generation, etc. I wonder if I could pull in here the track "Bicycle Theft in Rural Ireland." super evocative of like gameplay and of story, you know, like that. It like I love that whole album. Like, by the way, to be clear, I love that whole album so much. It gets a lot of play at my house. My kids love that album. The other night I was at dinner. I told them, hey, we were listening to it while we were eating dinner. And I said, hey, by the way, guys, guess what? I'm going to interview the guy who made this album. And my kids do not know and do not care what I do in terms of like trad music stuff, bagpipe stuff. Like, they're very sweet kids, but they don't really care. They're not into it. But that's the first time in my life that they've been like, really, like, excited about what I was doing. So that was very gratifying too. But like, really love this album. But yeah, so I was just like, how could I pick? I would be excited to talk about every track on that album, but that one in particular, I'm like, what was the intention with this game? You know, this lost 90s adventure game. What was the story? Where was this something you cooked up entirely yourself, or were you commissioned to do music for someone else's project? How did that all happen?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, where do I even start with this one? So Frontier, that is another, and believe it or not, that is another failure that went on to be something else.
Hmm.
Okay, so I actually started making a game, and I had this, like kind of a nice idea behind it. Some maybe I didn't spend too much time on it, but it was a lot of fun making, and I love the act of actually of making stuff. Like
Hmm.
that was great, and I kind of treated it like a job as well. Actually, I got out of the house, I went to the library, I'd work there for a couple of hours, go get my lunch break, go back to the library and carry on working there, just to like to have something like a different location. Like this is before I had my art studio, which I could have just went to
Hmm.
and done it now. But uh, I had this idea for like a Monkey Island kind of like point and click adventure game, very 90s, and I was working away in it, and I'd made like the first, I don't know, third of the game or whatever, and uh, it was a fun learning experience. And you know what? I might actually go back and do it. And people do ask me, as like, "Oh, when are you finishing this?"
Hmm.
Not that I've like put much out, but I've shared it with like family and friends and things. And
Hmm.
and they're like, when are you going to finish this off? And I was like, oh, we'll see. And then, but basically, I was working on the game, and then I was like making away at the music for it as well. And I was like, okay, it's going to be like a Monkey Island thing set in rural Ireland before the famine, So it's like it
Hmm.
ticks all my boxes. I know about this time. I know about this place.
Hmm.
I like adventure games. Again, super niche, but like solving puzzles and chatting to people and that sort of thing. Uh,
Hmm.
and I've made games in the past, like art games more specifically, rather than a polished commercial release. I've made games where it's more like about environment concepts, that sort of thing. More
Sure.
highbrow than like adventure games, uh, which is uh, yeah, a lot of my stuff isn't particularly highbrow, so there we go. Um, but I had made this game, and you know what? I sort of sat back, finished it. Finished the first chapter or whatever it was, the first third of the game, and I sat in it for a bit, played it a couple of times, played it through, and I was like, you know what? It's like it's an interesting idea, it's an interesting concept, story, characters are good. The game itself wasn't a load of fun to play, it was
Hmm.
kind of dry. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna maybe start this again, but like have a bit of a think about how I'm gonna like make it a bit more fun. And it was kind of in the line of like my biggest influence maybe would have been like Flann O'Brien, um,
Hmm.
who was a writer from Strabane, so the next town over from Sion Mills, where I grew up, and he wrote a book called The Third Policeman, which is one of my favorite books of all time. It's like a real weird. I think he wrote it in actually, this is another. It's only coming to me now, but maybe this actually leads into my train of thought in other ways as well. Um, he wrote this book like in the 30s, I think, and I think it's the first example of like a postmodern book,
Hmm.
like, and that it's kind of uh, it's yeah, a smile and a wink again, but in book form. Like
I
it's
see. Yeah.
funny, it's weird, it's obtuse, it's so like strange, meandering, very like I wrote my masters about it, before I made this game or whatever. So, but like in like the third policeman in relation to contemporary folk stories from that region of Northern Ireland from the Troubles. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of weird, like sort of gallows humor, the coping, that sort of thing. Very interesting. Um, anyway, but the interesting thing about the third policeman is Flann O'Brien. It's his most famous works, and whenever he wrote it, it got rejected. Nobody wanted to read it. Everyone was like,
Hmm.
what the hell is this?" It's like
Yeah.
such like a weird off the wall kind of a story. Doesn't really go anywhere. It's just lots of
Hmm.
strange characters and that sort of thing. And he basically put the book in his drawer and forgot about it, and it was only published after he died.
Oh,
Um,
really?
which is crazy. Anyway, so that's one of his failures that turned out to be that turned out to be something fantastic as well down the line. Um,
Well, I was just Googling it to just kind of get a feel for it too, and I saw that at least some of the cover art that's been used in the past has involved bicycles. And so do you think it might have that specific trek I asked you about, even bicycle theft in rural Ireland? Is there some kind of like subconscious connection going on there?
there is indeed, yeah. Oh, there's a really actually, you know what? Okay, I'll tell you a little bit. This is not like spoilers for the book or anything because
Mm,
maybe it gives you. I would advise reading it, and if you're reading it, read it in my accent. That'll help. Um,
mm.
but there's a part in the book where, and this kind of like taps into that maybe Irish Father Ted kind of levels of surrealism. Um,
Okay, well, I'm glad you
uh,
mentioned Father Ted. That's like a main reference point for me from from watching Father Ted as a kid. So, okay, I'm with you now. Go ahead.
all right, okay, good, good, good. So yeah, there's a bit in it where um, uh, sorry, I'm just laughing. I'm trying to get it right. Where there's a bit of when the book's talking about people who spend too much time on bicycles, and the more you spend on the bicycle, there's like a molecular distribution as you're like riding the bike over the cobblestones or whatever. That as the bike's bouncing along, the molecules from the bike are transferring into the human, and the molecules from the human are transferring into the bike. And it talks
Oh,
about people who cycle a lot, they have to like lean against the wall, otherwise they'll fall over, that sort of thing. So, and there's a bit in the book when he comes across a bike and he steals the bike or whatever. Maybe it doesn't, I can't remember, but there's a bike in the book anyway where the bike was at one stage a person,
I see.
and the
Yeah, they
person,
they transitioned fully.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's that level of just like weird, like absurdist kind of like, yeah, like, distinctly Northern Irish humor.
I,
But
I'm
that,
adding this to a cart now. I'm gonna get this for my wife for Mother's Day this year. This is excellent.
yeah, yeah, there we go. Yeah, good. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'd recommend it. It's an interesting read. And you know what? There's loads of stuff that's been inspired by it as well. So
Hmm.
you'll find like as you're reading it, say, oh, this is where so and so got this idea from or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good. It's really good. I'd recommend it. So yeah, Flann O'Brien from Strabane originally, and my inspiration for my video game, and particularly that track. So I wanted there's a part in the video game where you steal a bike, um, and you know what? There's all kinds of weird, absurd stuff. Like you could attach a fish to the bike, which would allow you to cycle it over a river. Like yeah,
What
you
is
know
this
what?
strange alchemy?
Yeah, yeah, it's just weird game logic. It makes sense in the world of the game anyway.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have like that sort of like a quick sort of snappy upbeat song, um, for that. And you know
Yeah.
what? A lot of the tracks on the game, like as I was working on the game, I would listen to the music, and then whenever I'd come back from the library or whatever, I'd find myself like still listening to the tracks and like, oh, I'm really enjoying this music actually. I think
Hmm.
it might have legs. Um, But yeah, that one was weird.
Mm.
Yeah, it has there's two trad tunes. So one that I learnt as Michael Russell's reel, but it's actually maybe more commonly known as the concertina reel, and
Mm.
then John Stenson's reel, which where I come from, they're normally played together, but they're normally played in different keys. So for this
Mm.
track, just for familiarity, I put them both in the same key, um, and I put some kind of like Ramones kind of like
Mm.
guitar over
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That sort of like yeah, like all downstroke,
Yeah.
to like really hammer it home. And then realized that the two tracks kind of overlapped and they worked well together. It's when you put them in the same key, it's the same chords, the same chord progression,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how it ended up like that. Oh
Mm.
god.
They
Yeah.
all have staying power for me personally as a listener, but that one stands out. And here's I hope this doesn't come across as in any way offensive, Jason. One thing that I thought was kind of funny is that I knew that I liked the tune Shebag Shemore, the Fairy Hill, right?
Mhm.
I knew I liked it, and I wanted to get it down on the flute.
Yeah.
And so I went on this little journey, as I sometimes do, where I would just pick a platform, and this time it was Bandcamp, and I just searched for the tune name and just played every version of that tune that I could find, and just hear how is everybody doing this, and just kind of try to get them all into a soup in my head. And I came across your take on it from this album. And the thing is, it really stood out to me. I loved it so much. I sent it to a couple of my friends. I was like, check this out. Isn't this excellent? And one of my friends who I sent it to was Jeremy of the Way Too Twag Bagpipe and History podcast. And he was like, oh, you've heard this before. And I was like, have I? And he was like, yeah, it was on that mixtape episode just recently. And I think, if I remember right, I had even messaged him after that mixtape episode and said, man, I love that track. I got to look that album up. And then I never looked it up. And the funny thing is, at that point, I had already been following your YouTube content for years, but I didn't have a connection like in my head between your name and your face, and like it just you existed as multiple people to me basically. And honestly, in my head at that time, I didn't know your name. I wouldn't have been able to say it, but if somebody had said, "Oh, YouTube uilleann Piper who's growing his hair out," I would have been like, "Yeah, I know exactly who you mean." That's how you existed in my head at the time. So anyway, I ended up learning the tune really just off of your version of it on this album. That ended up being the way through, but also the way that I connected the dots. Like, oh, this is the same guy. Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I have to. I keep toying with like cutting my hair or doing something with it, but I don't think I can
Mm.
anymore because people wouldn't recognize me.
Right? Yeah, it's too late. It's part of the
Yeah,
brand.
yeah. I gotta keep it now. Yeah. I went to like a like a music meetup in Newport, so like the next town over, next city over for
Mm.
me here in Wales. A couple of days ago, and some people like recognized me from YouTube. Like I'd done rap before. I'm
Mm.
like, oh, this is kind of weird.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, if I ever want to go incognito, I could just cut my hair, shave my beard.
Yeah, there you go. Then you
Yeah.
disappear.
And before we move on, actually, I just want to say that your method of like picking like a load of like typing in the name of a tune in and then like getting all the different versions of it,
Mm.
I do that as well.
Oh,
That
do
is
you?
a yeah,
That's
that
so
is a
encouraging. Wow.
great way to do it. Yeah, yeah, and uh, I think maybe I'm kind of more, I don't know, maybe more blessed or nerdy in that I have like a music library. like my iTunes or whatever it is these days, music
Yeah.
library of all my like bootlegs and field
Oh, sure.
recordings.
Yeah.
So if I type it in there, I'll like I was doing it recently for what was I trying to? I was trying to find some unique and interesting ways to play Banish Misfortune, because that's another common one that we
Oh,
have at our session, and that's a tune I know when I play. So I was able
but
to
but
type.
that's another one that like the timing has been a challenge for me with that one as well. And maybe that's part of why it's attractive, but the timing's always been funky for me on that one. But go on, sorry.
Aha. Yeah. It is. It's kind of weird. Like, because so speaking of the timing in that one, you're absolutely right. It's kind of a strange one to put regulators under.
Mm,
So like, so I'm trying to find some interesting reg patterns other than just holding a chord. Like, because that's
yeah.
kind of dry. But I think with that tune, you kind of need it. Because the kind of squirrely way that the notes sort of land.
Mm,
Anyway, but yeah, I was able to just type that in and bring up like a load of different versions, and the version that I liked the most out of everything that I had was of course the Woodley Clancy version, which is so weird and unusual and twisty turny and
mm,
just different to what happens in a session. And I'm able to go in there and I'm like, okay, this bit's cool, this is cool, this is cool. I'm gonna try
mm,
these next time we play this at a session, and then
mm.
I'll try them and feel, and something interesting will come out of it instead. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, so that's how I like to learn tunes as well, which is great.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, a lot of the tunes on that album, I recorded them on Whistle,
Oh,
and then I used some music software to basically it's the same software that people use for auto pitch, like where you sort of
yeah.
the what's the guy called, the T-Pain or the Share thing, where
Mm-hmm.
you correct your vocal melodies. But I'm able to throw my playing into that sort of machine, and what pops out the other end are the MIDI notes
Oh,
for what I'd
gotcha. Yeah.
played. So that was like the basis for the music on here. So even though it's all digital, I'm using like a copy of the sound card that would have been used for those old DOS games. Like it's the sound
Yeah.
card that PCs would have used, and it was available commercially on a couple of different keyboards as well. Casio, or sorry, Yamaha made it, I think. And I actually had one of those keyboards, but I'm terrible at playing keys, and I wouldn't want to try and do it properly. So I used a virtual simulation of that, and then that allowed me to throw my tin whistle over the top of it, steal the notes from what I was playing, and then
Yeah.
add in some like chords and like rhythms and kind of other weird stuff and other approximations of instruments, and it was a really
Yeah.
nice experience actually. Yeah, the whole thing.
Well, and I read that you mentioned that for this album, uh, you were trying to stay true to sort of techniques of sort of the golden age of the, I don't know, would you call it, would it be the 8-bit games, the DOS games, like you said, that DOS sound, and that you tried to lean into the weird idiosyncrasies of these old game soundtracks. And I did wonder, do you feel like the ability to pick out those, because like in order to, I was gonna say mimic something, but that maybe sounds like it has kind of a negative connotation. I don't mean it that way, but like in order to do a thing well, you kind of, well, maybe you don't need to. All right. Now I'm doubting everything everything I'm ever gonna say. I was
Carry
going to
on.
say, and I still think maybe, you kind of need to be able to articulate what it is that you're trying to achieve. And so you kind of have to think carefully. So, like, if you're going to listen to these old DOS soundtracks, these old DOS game soundtracks, and go, okay, here are some of the things that are idiosyncratic to this genre that make it identifiable, like, you kind of need to be able to articulate that, identify those things in order to then reproduce them, maybe. Um, and I just wondered, maybe I'm drawing connections where they don't need to exist, but that heavy metal album also, I feel like maybe it's the same skill set to be able to listen to these different players from the past and go, what makes this player's playing unique? Like, why is this identifiable? Now I'm going to try to do that on this old set of pipes. Does that feel like a crossover of skill set to you, or does that feel like it's in different compartments as well, to be able to think about video game soundtracks versus old piper, bootleg tapes and stuff?
No, you're on the right track, I'd say. Yeah.
Mm.
One of my best friends, um, was I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, decided he wanted to pick up the pipes, and I was over at his house, and we were like, it was, putting some pipes on, and he was putting on Willie Clancy, and some of the recordings are, if you're not into pipes or not into Irish music, or you're starting on the instrument or whatever, it can be a tough listen,
Mm.
And he asked me, he's like, why is this good?
Mm.
Why are you listening to this when I could be listening to, Davy Spillane or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So it is a skill in itself to be able um to like that sort of active listening, and part of it is going through like understanding the instrument. What is this person doing to create these sounds?
Mm.
Why is playing this F sharp like really crazy and flat? Why is this a good thing? You know?
Mm.
So yeah, it's kind of like, it's the only thing that you kind of get with more listening and more practice.
Mm.
And yeah, you don't necessarily need to master the instrument to understand this, but things like having an idea of the tune, having an idea of what they're doing differently from what somebody else might do, like things like
Mm.
that are kind of important as well. Um, and again, it's the same with the video game stuff. It maybe it leads me back to the White Stripes. It's the limitations. Like those early video game soundtracks, they would have been done using a program called a tracker. And with the
Mm-hmm.
trackers, you basically had to type in a drum, here, instrument here, drum here, whatever it is,
Mm.
and it reads it like a piano, like like those old pianos that sort of go
Yeah,
where
the
they have
player
like the.
pianos. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's basically that. So I had that in my mind whenever I was using my modern emulation of it, that this is the kind of thing that I wanted. It's got to be like a handful of instruments. You're limited by how many channels you could have at the same time. So
Mm.
whenever one instrument drops out, that creates space for another instrument to come in.
Mm.
You have like your single, or maybe two if you're feeling fancy, two channels for percussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's and the percussive sounds on it. It's not a drum sample. It uses like a sine wave, but with the added noise on it. Like
Yeah. It makes it so
it's
crunchy. Yeah, I love that sound.
yeah, yeah. It's again, like you're saying, they're very very idiosyncratic, and it's leaning into those things to sort of Otherwise, it could just be that I wanted to make like a MIDI album, and I could have made it sound much better with properly voiced instruments, and different automation and things like that in it, and
Yeah.
fancy compressors, and throw a reverb track on here or whatever, that sort of thing. But
Sure.
I quite liked the trying to stay true to the original, what the original sounds would have been.
Yeah.
If you were to hear this, you could be tricked into thinking that it came out in 1991 or something like that.
Well, and maybe it's just a coincidence, but that was one thing that occurred to me the other day when I had been listening to this album and I went to a different album and I realized like, oh, this album, the Frontier Nua album is it's quieter than basically all the rest of my music, and I thought to myself like, I wonder if that was on purpose because it would have been if it had been released in the era that it's emulating previous to the to what they call the loudness wars, like everything has gotten louder and louder in terms of like the bass volume that it's put out at, so that might even be a feature of like authenticity here.
No, 100% it is. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
you've got that. Yeah,
Oh.
and damn you, Rick Rubin. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It was. I wanted to keep it as pure, um, uh, and to some extent simple as it needs to be.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I've done that in the past. Like I've done mastering. I've done it for rock bands and things. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
I don't usually do it myself, which I don't know, maybe says more about me chickening out.
Mm.
But I decided that I wanted to keep this one as if it were like a game rip, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, just keep it keep it authentic, the same as if it were, the background music in the game. Yeah, that was the idea. And in terms of mastering, actually, if anyone out there is recording and they want a really good mastering engineer, if you've got anything, and somebody who works very well with pipes, the fellow who did my last album, the heavy metal album, is Sam Lawrence, who's a pipe maker in Yorkshire, who also is a studio engineer and is a fantastic masterer. So I just gotta this is my shout out to Sam. If anyone has any piping tracks they want to get them mastered by somebody who knows what they're doing, I would recommend
Sam Lawrence. Perfect. Well, and speaking of heavy metal, I'm going to ask you for another shout out. Can you tell me anything about that cover art? Because I like the album. I like listening to it, Jason. I would have bought it just from having listened to it, but I was convinced that I would be purchasing the album as soon as I saw the cover art. I'd have bought it just for the cover art. That's so excellent.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's kind of a like a fairy tale kind of album cover for me. Yeah, absolutely wild. Yeah, so I don't know. Album title, heavy metal. So maybe the precursor to this is I've been doing making kind of weird T-shirts, kind of based on metal bands. I'm interested in metal music as well. I like my Black Sabbath, I like my Slayer and my Loudness type stuff. It hasn't come across into my piping yet, although I am partial to throwing on Freebird and playing along on my pipes, every once in a while, just to get
where are those posts? I haven't seen those videos. Where are those videos? I need that. I need that in my life. My oldest son is obsessed with Freebird right now. I'll tell you what, I hear that song daily and I don't mind. It's a great song. But to have some variety might not be a bad thing.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I have an idea, not for a video, but for a project or for a band, where I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and do a metal album using pipes as the main voice. So I have a really nice set of pipes that were made by Ronan Brown, and he used them on all those soundtracks and Afro-Celt sound system and Clan and stuff like that. And they still have the channel in the chanters for attaching a microphone.
Oh, sure.
So there's a hole basically cut out of the inside of the chanter where you can feed a microphone, and you can get a really close sound, and I can put that through. Some guitar amps or something like that.
Yeah, guitar pedals and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
turn up the distortion on that.
Yeah. I'm a rocker at heart, So that's in my maybe pile. I actually haven't told anyone about that. There, literally, this project exists as like a page in my notes. It's on the way. I'm gonna work on it whenever I get some time. This is the thing. I'm perpetually busy and spinning plates, and I wouldn't want it any other way, to be honest. But so that's in the maybe pile. What were we talking about?
Oh, the heavy metal album in general. Including the cover art. Where did that come from? Because it's killer.
Okay, yeah. So I was doing. Oh god. I was doing some trad / metal T-shirts that just for myself for the fun of it, and the idea for the album cover came sort of born out of that, and I really wanted to highlight it's kind of like a play on words, like the heavy metal being the Taylor pipes. They are there's a lot of metal, a lot of silver on them, and they weigh a ton. Very, very funny. But the what, this is that kind of the idea behind that. It gets stupider the more you say it, I think, but it's done now, so I can't
yeah, there's no going
back on it. Yeah. But I wanted, I had a couple of artists in mind, and you know what? Whenever I said that I was recording a new album and I'd done it or whatever, and I was working on the artwork, loads of my friends and stuff were like, "Oh, are you going to do the artwork yourself? Are you going to put one of your paintings in? I think it'll be brilliant to do this or do that."
Yeah, knowing that you're a visual artist, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and what I really wanted was something that was just different. you
Hmm.
know, just something that's just kind of people see that and like, is this a trad album? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And I have such a fondness for uh, those crazy like 70s rock album covers, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yep.
like the Thin Lizzy stuff, like the heavy sort of graphics things, or like even I don't know, like those like really over the top like Elton John covers or whatever, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
love like something that's like a tangible object that you can spend a day looking at, you know.
Totally. Yeah.
And I had in my mind, it had like a handful of artists that I was going to contact. The top of my list was Jim Fitzpatrick, who'd done like the Thin Lizzy stuff and done stuff for like Sinead O'Connor, or more recently even
Mm.
like The Darkness or whatever.
Mm.
And I also had Willie Matthews, who did a lot of the early sort of like Mulligan record album covers. You know, like Malloy Brady People. So he's a watercolor artist.
Mm.
Fantastic artist, one of my favorites. And who else did I have? Roger Dean. Um, which I was like, would I be able to license something from Roger Dean? Did all this stuff for like Yes and all those bands. You know,
Mm.
really evocative of that time. And I had it
Yeah.
early before I even started recording that I wanted it to be an LP release. I didn't care how I was going to do it or how much it was going to cost or whatever. I was like, I'm going to do this. It's going to be a proper record. It's going to be a side A, a side B. It's going to be,
Mm.
you know, 40 minutes long. It's going to be the real deal. And that upped the stakes. So I was like, you know what? If I'm doing this, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
The album
If
cover
you're all
has
the
got
way
to
in, you're
be,
all the way in.
yeah, it's got to be epic. And
Yeah.
I, it's there's a piper that I love called Leo Ricard, who taught me whenever I was a kid at Willie Clancy one year actually. He's a brilliant piper, a really lovely, open, flowing style, and a lovely fella as well. And he, uh, one of his albums, uh, on the inside of it, actually no, I think even the cover as well, was a photograph that was taken by Jim Fitzpatrick, the same fella who did like the Thin Lizzy stuff. So I
Mm.
was like, you know, and he was like Jim Fitzpatrick, I think is still based in Dublin or whatever. So I sent him a message. I hit him up on Instagram. I'm like, Jim, how's it going? Uh, what's the crack? And
Yeah.
and he's like, you know, I said that you've done some work for like a fella that I know, like Piper Leo Ricard. Would you be interested in licensing or coming up with like an album cover or something for me? And and he was actually really nice about it. He was like, "Oh, I love the pipes.
Mm.
You can have it. You can have it for free."
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I was just like jaw dropped. I'm like, "Oh my god, I cannot believe this is happening."
Yeah. Wow.
Like, you know, one of my like all time hero artists has just like allowed me to use this, and you know,
Yeah.
like there were stipulations for it. I couldn't put it on a t-shirt or whatever. It was like it was just, it had to be just kept for the album cover, you know,
Just for
that
the
sort of
album.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I couldn't like run off and be like, oh, you know, let's make stickers for this or whatever, you know, like
Right.
but I was able to use it, and it's just elevated the whole package, you know. Like
Mm.
I'm big into my physical media, as much as I try and run away from physical media, having moved houses a lot and all the rest of it. Uh, I still think that the best way to experience like trad music is with the package, you know,
Mm.
like or maybe even a better way, the ritual, you know,
Mm.
like uh yeah, it's you sit down, you carve out time, you have your album cover there, you can read the notes, you can understand what the tunes are about. It's like, you know, what we were talking about earlier. Oh, Noel Devine's name pops up a lot. It's like, yeah, that's because
Yeah.
you've got the notes right. You've got the little booklet. You can see what's going on. You can understand. Uh, yeah, the whole thing, the whole package is important, and I think it's something that a lot of
Mm.
people like forget about. With and maybe it's because I've come from like maybe a more arty, farty design, conceptual kind of background. You know, like I'm thinking big picture stuff rather than somebody who creates an album and it comes with like a post-it note maybe explaining what the tracks are on it. It's just like no
Yeah.
no 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 no. Let's go big. Let's make it a
Mm.
proper thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a big and proper thing. I mean, like I say, it's great to listen to as well, of course. But man, what a cover! And actually, speaking of being great to listen to, I feel like maybe this is like it runs with some of the themes that have come up in our chat today. That Taylor set that you mentioned that Liam really likes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming it's the same set. It comes up on a few tracks in this album, and like you must not be the only person in the world who likes to complicate things, because for that Taylor set, the seventh track on the album, The Atlantic Roar, if I remember right, the entire track is just chanter. We're just hearing the chanter. It's like
Yeah.
a chanter solo. But then later on in the album, we hear let's see, it was a jig set. It was snug in the blanket, the fisherman's.
Oh yeah.
That's on the double chanter.
Yeah.
And then what's more, later we also hear an air using a contrabass. And so
Yeah.
it's like, okay, like people have been complicating things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Oh,
which
100%.
which of those do you think is the more challenging of your optional complications for the Taylor set? Is it more of a challenge to get the double chanter to play well, or more of a challenge to get the contrabass regulator to function well? What do you think?
Ooh, yeah. I'm going to say contrabass.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's yeah. Whenever I was doing like just speaking about the YouTube videos from before as well, actually, when I was doing the sort of Taylor set introduction type thing, I did a video on the Taylor set, I did a video on the double chanter, and then the last one I did was the video on the contrabass because
Mm-hmm.
it's a different beast altogether. Yeah,
Mm.
and there's complications in it and the sort of how it's laid out. So it's opposite to where your brain thinks it should be. So normally you have your regular keys going down in sort of descending order of tone. You've got your
Mm-hmm.
tenor, baritone, bass at the bottom, and then contrabass is actually the reverse of that. It's at the top, and
Mm.
the actual contrabass itself is upside down. So when you press
Mm.
one of the notes, there's a big long key that opens the hole at the bottom of it or whatever. Like it's kind of all yeah, it's all so wrong. But I love it for that. But
Yeah.
it's big. It took me a long time to try and get it where it was actually comfortable and easy to play.
Mm.
And yeah, why not? Yeah, air quotes on the word easy.
Sure. Yeah.
It's nothing's easy about that. The contrabass, but it took me a while to get it to a position like physically on my body, and it took a lot of playing around with like different lengths of tubing, different bellows, and
Mm.
using some cork to like prop things up and move things around. I had a chair that I put 3 cushions on, so I had to like sit up a bit more for recording it. Like, yeah, just stuff that you don't think about that actually make
Yeah.
a massive difference in the sort of playability of your uilleann pipes. And if you are an uilleann piper and you've got a set that maybe is too big for you or something, you can try these things out yourself as well. To all the listeners out there. Um, yeah, so that was tricky. Getting a reed for it. Um, I'm kind of lucky in that there's the set that I had before this set was made by a pipe maker in England called Chris Bailey, who makes fantastic pipes, and he also makes copies of my set, of the Taylor set. And he was able
I see.
to,
So he would have parts and pieces or the right tooling, that kind of stuff.
yeah,
I
yeah. So
gotcha. Yeah.
he was able to make a handful of reeds. So he made some reeds and he sent me some blanks as well because I make reeds under duress, but I do make reeds and so
Under duress. That's
yeah, I know my way around it. So he sent me some bits and pieces that I'll will fit with myself, and I was able to get a decent reed for
mm.
the contrabass working in there as well, which was nice. And actually, maybe
Mm.
that's a nice point as well about or this particular Taylor set. It belonged to Ted Anderson over in California, and then Ted sold it to Rick Lyons, who's one of my friends in Wales, and who has some other beautiful sets as well. And then Rick wasn't playing it as much as he'd like to over sort of lockdown, and give me the opportunity. I said, if you ever sell it, give me first refusal. And then I got it from Rick. But whenever Ted had it, he would have been good friends with David Quinn. And David Quinn had that set and measured it and took all like
Mm.
details about how it was made, and he uses that as like the basis for his own Taylor style stuff.
Mm.
Chris Bailey makes copies of it, and more recently, Will Woodson, who has also been on your show,
Yeah.
Will uses that set as a template as well for his. Although
I didn't realize that.
he like tweaks little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when he was developing the regulators, he asked me for like, oh, can you like send me over like your read specifications for the regs, and I just did a couple of quick drawings and a couple of quick measurements, and I sent them over, and then I eventually went over to visit, and his regulators sounded a lot better than mine, and I was like, oh, what have you done? It's like, oh, I've just made the holes like slightly smaller or something like that. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. But you know what? It's great to see that set living on in all these new people who are making sets like based around it.
Yeah. It's cool. It's kind of perpetuating in such a way.
Yeah. Oh, it's just lovely to see. Yeah, and it is a beautiful set to play. Actually, my my original idea for the front cover was going to be it actually made its way onto the back cover, which was a kind of a parody of Taylor Swift,
Oh.
1989. So the back
Oh
cover
my
is
goodness. I saw the image. I didn't, of course, that makes so much, it didn't even occur to me. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course that's what that is.
yeah.
You got the
Nobody's.
Polaroid look to it and everything. Yeah.
You know what? It's actually the same jumper that she wore on that album cover.
Is it really?
Um, yeah. I tracked down one.
You're very committed to the details. That's excellent.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm a big Swiftie as well. I do love a bit Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I've not loving the last two albums, but yeah. Some of her like more poppy stuff, like like that 1989 or the folk stuff that she done. It's all good. I like it. Yeah, I went to see her in Cardiff actually recently, when she did that was it the Eras tour? When was it, last year maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was like, Taylor Pipes, Taylor Swift, ha ha ha. Actually, that's one of
My
the
goodness,
reasons.
I didn't even get that joke. I didn't even get it till right now. That's excellent. That's great.
Yeah, there's another little Easter egg on the back where it says, I think it says Taylor's version, on like one of them. I think maybe not actually. Maybe I took that off. Maybe that was too on the nose. But at one stage I was going to do that. I was going to do. I think I was going to do like. I think I've got the Jolly Tinker on this album on like the flat set, and I was going to do like a version of it on the Taylor set as well. So like have the same tune but played differently on different instruments.
Yeah.
And I think that was like Taylor's version.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that's the reason why it didn't show up with her. Anyway, this is just things that happen in my brain. Yeah.
It's delightful to get a peek at them, though.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, Jason, maybe if you don't like this as sort of like a place to go, feel free to tell me. But I wondered, like, maybe it's kind of a random place to go, but I thought maybe if we were to head toward kind of a graceful close, back on the Fieldish Recordings album, you have a take on a waltz called The Spanish Cloak.
Mm-hmm.
And in your notes about it, you mentioned that you decide to dip out on it before it overstays its welcome.
Yeah.
And that's something I always respect that a lot about, whether it's a TV show or a musician or, anything like that, where like while you still want more, they decide like that's enough and they step out, like I really respect being able to make that kind of decision. I'm not good at making that kind of decision myself. I mean, look at me. I've taken nearly 2 hours of your day. I'm not good at that myself, but I love it when it happens in music tracks and stuff like that. And maybe it's kind of a funny joke, before I've overstayed my welcome, maybe we go out on the Spanish Cloak. Would that be crazy?
Yeah, that's cool. Let's do that.
Okay, perfect. Well, is there anything else wait, did you? Okay, we have been talking for a minute. Did you mention the festival that you hold there in Western Wales? You did.
I did. Yeah. That's cool.
Okay.
We got that. Yeah, that's in May.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I got my festival in May, West Wales. It's great crack. Yeah, we've got some fantastic teachers coming this year. It's a big pipe, sort of heavy. But we have, it's not just uilleann pipes, but it's mostly an uilleann pipe festival. We have Welsh pipes there. Yeah, so and pastoral pipes, and yeah, it's it's a lot of fun, and I think we might even be sold out this year, but we'll keep it in your diaries for next year or whatever.
I'll make sure I'm sure there'll be a way to find some kind of info about it on the